I've been carrying this secret for over 10 years, and it's finally reached a point where I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm about to burst, and I have no idea how to fix the situation. So here it goes. When I was 18, I met Emily in college. She was everything I thought I wanted in a best friend. Kind, smart, funny, and incredibly supportive. We hit it off immediately, and we spent nearly every day together. We were inseparable for all 4 years of school, and I thought I had found someone who would be my friend for life. But there's something I've never told her, something that eats at me every single day. It started right after we graduated. We were both struggling to find jobs, and I found myself in a pretty desperate financial situation. Emily, on the other hand, had landed a great job right out of college. She didn't have to worry about rent, bills, or anything like that, and I was jealous. I never told her, but I envied everything she had. Her job was everything I wanted, and the way she was succeeding made me feel small. It wasn't just that I was struggling. What really bothered me was that she never seemed to understand. Every time I'd vent about the stress of job hunting, she'd brush it off like it was no big deal. She'd say things like, "It's not that hard, you just have to keep applying," or "You'll get there soon, just keep trying." Meanwhile, she was getting promotions, going out for fancy dinners with colleagues, and traveling the world. It felt like she was living this perfect life, and I was stuck in a rut. I didn't want to burden her with my problems, but the jealousy built up inside me. I kept telling myself that things would get better, that I would find something that worked for me, but it didn't. Months went by, and Emily eventually moved to a different city for work. At that point, I was still unemployed, still trying to make ends meet. I felt like I was failing at life. We stayed in touch through calls and texts, but the distance made it harder for me to keep up the facade. She'd often tell me about all the amazing things she was doing, traveling, meeting new people, exploring new places, and I just couldn't take it anymore. The jealousy was consuming me. One day, I made a decision that I regret to this day. I borrowed money from her. I didn't want to admit I was struggling, but I needed help. So I asked her for a loan. I told her it was temporary, that I was in a tight spot, and would pay her back as soon as I got a job. Emily, being the wonderful friend that she is, didn't hesitate to help me. She wired me the money, and I promised her I'd pay her back. But here's the thing, I never did. At first, it was a small amount of money, and I thought I could pay her back quickly. But as time went on, I found myself deeper in debt, and I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. I kept making excuses, telling her that I was close to getting a job, that things were looking up. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I didn't want her to think less of me. I didn't want her to see that I was failing, that I was jealous of her success. I wanted to appear as though everything was fine, as though I was just as capable as she was. But the lies piled up, and the guilt kept eating away at me. A year passed, and I still hadn't paid her back. By this point, I had a job, but it was nothing like what Emily had. I was working long hours for minimum wage, and I barely had enough to cover my bills. Every time I thought about paying her back, I felt like I was drowning in guilt. I kept pushing it off, telling myself that I'd have enough money soon, but I never did. And now here I am, 10 years later, still holding on to the secret that I've never told her. She's moved on with her life, and we're still friends, but the weight of my actions is suffocating. I've seen her post pictures of her house, her vacations, her growing family, and I wonder if she'd ever forgive me if she knew the truth. Every time we talk, I feel like I'm deceiving her, and I don't know how to make it right. The worst part? I don't even know if I can ever pay her back. I've gotten myself into more debt, and it seems like no matter how hard I try, I can never catch up. I feel like a failure. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to tell her that I've been lying to her for years. I'm sorry, Emily. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but if you do, I hope you can understand why I've kept this from you. I never meant to hurt you, but I've hurt myself by letting this secret grow into something much worse than I could have ever imagined.